I slipped under the water and I drowned. And then I woke up in the bottom of the pool, like horizontal bottom of the pool. And now I'm awake and I'm in the water and it's late at night and I can see the moon and I can see the stars on the surface of the water, but I'm in the water and I don't have any air in my lungs. And how did I get here? That's literally what my NDE was.
Electricast. This episode of Transforming 45 is proudly sponsored by the National Menopause Show, happening October 17th and 18th at the International Center in Mississauga. The National Menopause Show is where science meets sisterhood, a trusted, inspiring, and genuinely fun weekend for anyone navigating perimenopause and menopause. You'll hear from leading experts, discover the latest research and wellness solutions, and connect with a community that truly gets it. Get your tickets at nationalmenopauseshow.com and use my exclusive code Transforming45 and come as my guest. Can't wait to see you there. Welcome to Season 4 of Transforming 45. I'm your host, Lisa Boate, and this season we're stepping fully into our power. The heat, the hormones, the heartbreak, the healing. This is Midlife, raw and redefined. Each episode, you'll hear stories of humans who are rewriting the rules, reclaiming their bodies, their desires, their voices. This is where we stop shrinking, start shining, and remember who the hell we are. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's an awakening. Let's get transforming 45. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. This week I have something for you to consider. What if the patterns running your life aren't personality? They're actually programming. What if you could rewrite them in real time? Today's guest doesn't just talk about healing or mindset, he builds systems for it. After navigating severe trauma, mental health struggles, and a near-death experience that changed everything, Thayne Martin came back with something bold, a framework for rewiring how we think, feel, and show up in our lives. Thayne, welcome to the show. I am so glad you are here today.
Me too, Lisa. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a pleasure.
All right. So most people are running programming,
Yeah.
not choosing. So what does that actually look like in real life?
Yeah. So let's hit some numbers real quick. Average person has 68,000 thoughts a day on average. That's from UC Berkeley. Of those 68,000 thoughts, only 5% actually make it to conscious awareness, which means 95% of who you are, how you show up is done in your subconscious. So what's in your subconscious? Because that is exactly who you are, is your subconscious. And your subconscious is full of all of the stories that you told yourself throughout your life, starting when you were a little kid. So think about how many stories you wrote when you were a little kid when you wrote the wrong story because you fell off the bike and you said to yourself at that moment in time, I must not be good at riding a bike. I can't balance. So you write the story because I fell off the bike that I can't balance. So then that next year, when you get, the opportunity to go into gymnastics, you say, "No, I don't know how to balance." And so you don't become a gymnast. And what you didn't realize is that you would have been the next, Mary Lou Retton. That's from my age. Okay. That would have been you. But because that self-limiting belief in your 68,000 thoughts that you wrote when you were a kid, you never got that opportunity. So that is what is hidden in our brains. It's the shadows of our past.
Yeah, it's so interesting. As you were using that example, you revealed something for me I haven't thought about in forever. But when I was little, I could only do a somersault. And I think actually part of it was that I just didn't like the feeling of being upside down. But because I couldn't do the cartwheels and all the things that I saw my friends doing,
Right.
I thought, well, I just don't really know how to use my body. Like that's my adult
Right.
language
Yeah.
for it, right? But
Yes.
as a child, I was like, well, I'm not good at any of these things.
Correct.
And that story underpinned that it's not just a somersault, right?
Exactly.
We underestimate the experiences that we have from ourselves and also the messages we get from other people.
Yes, 100%. And those are the things that are operating in our subconscious that are played by our subconscious. Anytime, what people have to realize, our brains are repetition engines. That's it. Okay. There's a reason why we don't process 68,000 thoughts a day because we couldn't. We couldn't. So that means Mother Nature gave us something called the default mode network. And the default mode network is what runs the subconscious when we are not consciously running the show. So oftentimes things happen in that default mode network, but they're all coming from those stories, those childhood things that we experienced. So if you wrote the wrong story, unless you find that and update the story with a new memory, your body's physiological response will always be the same story. That's why when you want to change who you are, it's not just about reading and rechanging my thought. It's actually retraining the response from the body and tying it to a new thought, a new memory. That is why most people get stuck, is because the body is still responding, but it's delivering the wrong tape. We got to rewrite the story that's attached to the physiological response to a new memory. That is when behavior changes.
So, what was the moment in your own experience where you realized I have to stop running these same programs and stories always been running?
Boy, that's a tough one. Real quick, because I don't want this hour to be about that, but I had a really difficult childhood. I grew up in East Phoenix, a good little family, beautiful mother and father, perfect family. Wouldn't change a thing there. But my parents lived on a street where an older man and a wife moved in on our street. That older man was a pedophile. And my family did not know that. The neighbors did not know that. And sadly enough, that man began abusing me at about age 8. And from ages 8 till 14, I was routinely abused by him and another man that went to my church. So the very place that I should have been safe was not a place of safety for me. That was a place of ugliness and ugly things. But I wrote the wrong stories around all of that. And throughout my entire life, my identity was messed up by this horrible trauma that had been pushed on me by adults who thought that their lives were more valuable than mine. So most of my life, I lived as a victim. I showed up as a victim. I was generally kind to my family and friends, but if I didn't know you and you were a member of the public and you did something that I didn't find nice, then I would ruin your day for you. Like I was a complete Karen. Not proud of that, but that's how I showed up in the world because of the anger from what happened to me as a child and never having been able to process it and put it away. So was there one thing in my life that made me go, "Yeah, I've gotta change it?" Yeah, it was a suicide attempt for me in my early piece. I had never gotten help. I had tried to outrun my trauma. I had become addicted to prescription medicines because the doctors decided the best way to manage my mental health was to over-medicate me. So I had 7 pill boxes at one time, and I lived a life where I was one thing, but then I would go back to the hotel and be somebody different. So I was completely fake, 100% fake. And I lived that way. And behind all this success in business and everything was a very broken man who literally would spend, everybody else went back to their hotel room and slept in the bed. Thayne Martin went back to that same hotel room and slept in the closet because that's where it was safe for him. So I grabbed my pillow, I grabbed the blanket off that bed, and I would go, there as a 50-year-old man hiding in the hotel room, sleeping in the closet because I felt safe there. So yeah, that for me, it was that, right? It was that wake up call when I decided to exit. And thankfully there was another plan for that for me that day. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I got the help from the professionals because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the professionals. But I will also say that the professionals did not heal me. I will say that.
Yeah. And I think that I'm going to go back and say thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
I know it's when you were talking about taking the bedding and going into the closet and the duality of who you are. It's like it's the armor, right? It's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
armor that we put on to wear through this life to keep ourselves
Yeah.
safe when
Yes.
we have nervous systems that don't know what safe feels like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's just so much empathy when I see people walking through the world that way, and you can if you really pay attention to people, you can see people who are wearing armor. No, you're not actually seeing the physicality of it, but you see
Yeah.
the energy of armor,
Yeah.
and my heart always opens up to them because I just think what you're one foot in front of the other day every day for you is so heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. And and it was actually that heaviness was the gap between the person I was portraying in the leadership roles in the world that I lived in corporate America. And then the reality was the real person behind, the facade. I was the man behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. That's who I was.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to identify that directly because I think there are so many people in the world who feel exactly the same way. And it comes from, a wide range of experiences, but it is from a deep wound that happened when we were young. And we do that. We project who we think the world thinks we should be
Correct.
while we are doing everything we can behind that projection to be seen.
And then eventually you realize the amount of energy that it takes to live 2 lives, right? But in my case, I was actually living the lives of 10 because when I was abused as a little boy multiple times repeatedly at a young age, I developed something called dissociative identity disorder. So as through most of my life, I operated as one of 10 different distinct personalities. I do not have DID today. I healed that, and I did that using the protocol that I now teach called XM neurointegration. But I, at one time, operated, yeah, with DID. I was bipolar 1, severe ADHD, and complex PTSD with catatonic states. That was my life from being abused as a child and never getting the help, never told anybody. Like, my parents didn't even know what happened to me. Nobody knew. Nobody until my suicide attempt, where suddenly, wait a minute, why is this man doing this? He has everything. Something's not right. Yeah, you're right. Something's not right. My entire life is not right. My entire life is fake, and I'm not real. I'm not authentic. I'm hiding behind this mask that I put on every day. I go out, I pretend I'm happy, and I could do that, right? But going out into the world and pretending you're happy and being something that you're not takes an emotional toll on yourself. And then
Yeah,
eventually you not only do you lose yourself, but you dig past that. Okay. And now you've dug into the deepest parts of the wounds itself. And then you wake up in life and you go, who am I? Because that's where I was. And that's why I decided maybe it would be better off not to live. That was
yeah,
that choice, right? Wrong choice, wrong choice. But that was the case. Yeah, that led me there.
yeah. Tell me how the ND and your near-death experience, how did that help bring you to that place of confrontation with yourself?
Yeah. Boy, there is nothing that wakes you up any more than that, okay? I mean, nothing. I was given some medication I shouldn't have been given, and I am hypersensitive to medication. We know that now. But at the time I was given medication by a physician, I took it. I was alone at night. I had a massive allergic reaction to it, and I ended up having a seizure while swimming. So I was alone, and I ended up losing my consciousness. I slipped under the water and I drowned. That is how I drowned. And then I woke up in the bottom of the pool, like horizontal bottom of the pool. And now I'm awake and I'm in the water and it's late at night and I can see the moon and I can see the stars on the surface of the water, but I'm in the water and I don't have any air in my lungs. And how did I get here? That's literally what my NDE was. And then I started praying. Okay. I started praying. And at that time I was an atheist. Let me put that in there because I left Mormonism and I became an atheist because of what had happened to me. There was no way in heck I was going back to any kind of God or anything because no way. You didn't protect me. Okay. I went to church. I did my repentance and you did not protect me. So no, I'm not coming back to you. Well, when you're dying in a pool and you know you have no options, you start pleading. Don't matter who you are, you're going to plead. I did plead, but then I got an answer. Okay. And the answer was Thayne, lift your head. So I went like this. I was, imagine me like this. And I went like this. That's all I did. And when I did that, there was a pocket of oxygen that had gotten caught in my throat because I had thyroid cancer in 2017. And when they removed my thyroid and two golf ball sized tumors, it left a void inside of my throat where that organ and these tumors once were. So when I breathe, if I take a big breath of air in, sometimes it separates. It goes into my lungs, but it also goes into this pocket that exists, this void that forms in my mouth under certain situations. So that's exactly what happened. And there was oxygen in there, and that oxygen went into my lungs. And when it went into my lungs, it gave me the strength to figure out how to wiggle my way up to the surface of the water so that I could cough it out and start to breathe again. That's literally what happened. And then I
Wow.
laid on the side of the pool for about 2 hours because my body was not working. It like I wanted to swim, I wanted to walk, but my nervous system was not allowing me to do that. So I laid on the side of the pool for about 2 hours, just literally staring at the stars. Probably one of the most moving experiences of my life because it started a fascination with the cosmos and how small I really was in relationship to this massive thing that somehow maintains perfect balance. Because my life was not in perfect balance. My life was a mess. So how do I fix my life? Because I am way out of balance. That's
Yeah.
literally what happened. It started in that pool. And then an understanding I've spent the last year that was August 13th of 2023 was the night I drowned in the pool, and I've spent every day since then studying and remembering what happened to me in that pool, and from that came the work that I now do, the equation of life and abundant happiness, because when I died, I realized that everything that I had done prior to that meant nothing. And I had to change who I was and how I showed up in the world, or I was gonna end up in the bottom of that pool again, and that
Right.
was not happening.
Yeah.
So that's literally it was a wake-up call from the thing upstairs.
Yeah. And what happened before, it meant that it got you to where you needed to be to have this experience,
Yes.
right?
Well,
And
I'm
yeah,
glad you
and so
said that, 'cause that's true.
we've talked about the physical aspect of it. What happened spiritually in that time for you that brought you to a new level of awareness and connection?
Yeah, well, I will tell you this. Again, started out with an offshoot of Christianity, being Mormon, right? Was a member of the Mormon faith most of my life. Left that faith, became an atheist, was an atheist when I drowned. Okay. I would tell you I was maybe leaning more towards agnosticism than complete atheist because there was just still some things that didn't make sense to me that I couldn't justify. So I would say I was leaning towards that. But after that, my connection to heaven and God and divinity, no, it is the most important thing I have in my life, no doubt. Like I live with light in my heart and I live with that light in all that I do and everywhere that I go. And the light now lives in my heart and I have heart brain coherence. And even though I have heart brain coherence, I've learned that the best compass in life is not my brain, it's my heart. And
Yeah. Can you
largely
say a
how
little bit about what heart brain coherence means?
yeah. So heart-brain coherence is I like to talk about the childhood because everybody that's been a mother can relate to this. When you have a child and that baby is crying and you're in another room, you're even across the street visiting the neighbor and you know your baby is crying. Even though your husband's home, you know. That's heart brain coherence because when we were little, Before we could communicate, mama speaks telepathically to that child. That communication system exists. Somewhere around age 4 or 5, when mama starts using words and the child begins forming sentences, there comes literally a day and time when mama or father does something that is different from what they're feeling, communicating through the heart. And so while we are born with heart brain coherence, at about age 4 or 5, the brain will disconnect. And the human then follows the brain and lets go of the guidance and the ability to literally think, feel in the heart. So we disconnect and then we lead the rest of our lives with our cognitive brain. So what I've learned is that there is a way that we can all live and have heart brain coherence, and I can reconnect my heart back to my brain. And when I do that, I actually have a greater intelligence because now I've got every faculty available to me, not just my brain.
Yeah, what you just said there is really important because as you were talking, I also was thinking, yes, we have that disconnect, but we still feel and think in the heart, and our brain is convincing us that that is not authentic or real.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So then we have this huge
Yes.
disconnect within ourselves
Huh?
where we are sitting in this space of, but I know something to be true. It's interesting, and it's taken time, but I have taught myself how to reconnect. Like, I remember as a child being in a space and feeling like there's something happening or something isn't right, and I didn't know why. But then realizing, oh, my heart was telling me that there was something not right in this space. And even today, there'll be times when I suddenly start feeling, when you're talking about the mother child connection, my heart starts racing and I start to feel tightness in my chest. And I have to stop and ask myself the question, is this me? Or am I feeling someone else? And often when it's that feeling, I'll look at the calendar and go, oh, my kids are writing exams. So
Mhm.
I feel their
Feel their
anxiety.
energy. I
Yeah,
mean,
I feel their energy in the moment.
especially as a mama, you would feel
Yes.
that. Makes 100%. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
accurate.
Yes, and so when we know that and we're able to make that connection, we are able to spend so much less energy in
Yes.
convincing ourselves that what I'm feeling with my heart isn't real.
I will tell you that today I live from here. I do not live from here at all. At all. I am 100% driven by my heart and 100% driven by what I call light energy. So if I'm doing something and I find it diminishing the light in my heart in any way, then I have to look at it and say, is this worthy of this negative energy? And do I want to accept it? Because sometimes you have to accept negative energy, knowing that the long term purpose is positive. But it's still a choice that you make. So do I walk forward into the situation knowing that there's going to be negative energy, or do I listen to my heart, which is saying danger, caution, don't move forward? Right? And we all, and like you said, we all have gut level intuition. And over time, our cognitive brain convinces us that the gut level intuition is inaccurate. When in fact, your gut level intuition is 100% accurate. And you can actually rely upon it even more when you understand how our bodies are actually connected to a field of energy, and that our bodies actually pick up on the energy before the brain does. So,
Yes.
yes, I mean, how many times have you walked into a room, said nothing, observed nothing, but you walk right in and immediately you feel the energy? You feel it and it's negative and you don't like it, but you haven't had a split second to observe anything, but yet you knew it was there the minute you walked in. So what does that mean? That means that you got information from your body through the energy in the field of the room itself. So your body always knows before the brain does. So why do we override the body and go with the brain when it's second to the party?
Absolutely. As an educator, I had the privilege of being able to witness this in large scale, right?
Okay.
Because I was coach and did professional development for for other educators. So that meant I was traveling to different schools every day. And even on a school level, I would open a door and walk through and feel
Yeah. Right. Right.
right, or this place feels really good and welcoming, but it was so intense and at a scale of like, because when you have hundreds of humans in a building,
Right.
right?
That's a lot of energy when
It's
you
a
think about
ton
that.
of energy.
Yes.
And and it hits you before you can even begin to think through what it is that you're experiencing.
I love energy when you think about how it can come from nowhere. Literally, like you can walk into a stadium full of 100,000 people and silence it for the national anthem and notice the feeling. Okay. And then when the home of the brave and the things fly over, watch that energy change. Watch that crowd start screaming. Now you're watching energy literally live, amplitude and grow. And where did it come from? Nothing. So we are always surrounded by nothing. And in the nothing is the signals that teach our intuition what's actually coming. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about the life review that you had, because I
Okay.
think one of the pieces that as humans, one of the largest scale pieces of programming we have is good, bad judgment.
Yes.
Right. So we are in this structure of believing there are good people, there are bad people, and we are judged for everything that we do, which, when we pull the layers back, is running the show, right? There's so much of that in our subconscious because we have
Yes.
absorbed it from
Yes.
so many sources.
Yes. Yes.
And it is a false premise.
100%
So
false.
I'm wondering if you can talk about how that experience helped you to how to see that and how that supports you in the life that you're living now.
Sure, sure. So I think like anybody else, I was raised with this idea of the thing in the air, right? That controlled everything. And I had a negative relationship with God because I always felt like I wasn't good enough. Now realize I was being abused by people and then also judged by these same people for moral cleanliness. That's pretty jacked up. So you're sitting there across the desk asking me about my moral cleanliness and you were the one abusing me. You don't see a problem with this. Okay. That was my reality. So, you know, the truth of the matter is that every action that we have here does have a reaction and it is recorded. So, what I always share with everybody is that everything that we do here is recorded by two things, light and sound. Okay. That is literally how every movement, everything we've ever done as a human being is tracked by light and sound. So understand that when we create words with our mouth, that physical sound that we've created becomes physical matter. And that physical matter that we have manifested from the lungs and the movement and the air in our bodies, that sound that comes out of our voice never stops. Okay. So here as humans, we know that that voice so many few feet away from me, you can't hear it anymore. Well, that means the human being can't hear it, but that doesn't mean that everything else that exists upstairs can't, and they can. So know that every word you say exists forever. It never goes away. So you have to be careful with the words that you use. Equally important is the positive way that you use your words. Because when you do positive things with your voice and with your energy and with your voice, that also ripples and also ripples forever. So ultimately, what you learn is that when we die, our souls basically die in one of three states. You're either net negative, which means the sum of your life. If I added everything up that happened to your life and your interpretation of your life is negative, and that is how you died. And we call that net negative. Then there are people who made wonderful choices throughout their life and they never experienced negativity. And when they died net positive. And I know a lot of people right now are going, that's me. I've always made the best choices and all these look at me as I pass all of you naysayer sinners. That's me.
That's funny because I was thinking, does any person like that actually exist?
Yeah, there's many people that believe that they're walking in goodness. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, they're narcissists. We've all met them, right? Let's
Right.
be real. Okay. All right.
Yes.
So then here's what you ultimately find. All of that doesn't matter. None of it matters. What matters is that you die neutral. Okay. You want to die in the perfect space of zero because that means that you lived your life literally perfectly. And the reason why that makes a difference, because I used to always think that a soul that always chose the best would be the one that would be the most rewarded in heaven. That's what I was led to believe. But I'm telling you right now, that is wrong because the soul that chose nothing but goodness did not grow. That soul does not know how to stand back up when life kicks their butt. So interestingly, I've got 3 daughters. My oldest daughter made all the right choices, top of her class, scholarship, like literally never. The younger two, they made different choices. I don't have hair because of those younger ones. Okay. But inevitably, what I've learned is that let your kids struggle, let them fall down, because in teaching them to stand back up, you've grown their soul. All right. That is the most important thing I would tell you from living on the other side and knowing from what happens. Okay. Negative energy exists in the world today merely as a teacher. That's it. Negativity is nothing more than a teacher. Remember, happiness and sadness are present at the same time, same moment. One person sees happy, the other person sees sad. Which side of the coin were you on when it flipped? Do you see how perspective changes our perception of a single moment?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So realize that as a human being, we're naturally drawn towards negative. It's in our species. It's what keeps us safe.
Uh-huh.
So don't be mad at yourself if you have a negatively programmed brain because your brain did its job. And the brain is wired negative by default to protect you. But true living is a person that has changed that subconscious mind and brought it to zero, which is neutral, because that's where you want to be when you die. You want to die neutral. So understand that life review is about an understanding of every choice you've ever made. But what's different about it is when you look at any of those moments, what you experience in life review is from the perspective of everybody else. So what's missing is you. So if I walked into, and it's like a bubble, that's the best way to describe it. And in a bubble is every variable, every timeline in existence pointing to that 1 second in time. So the planet alignment, where the sun was, where I was, where you were, all of those things go into alignment. So now I'm looking at this moment and I see my sister's crying. And I realize that the reasons my sister is crying is because of me, because I did something that really hurt her, that made her heart go dark. So when I experienced life review, what I experienced was the darkness and the sadness that I created in her heart. Not what I created. I felt the opposite. So what does that also mean? When you do good things in your life and you experience life review, you get to experience the joy and the goodness that I put where? In their hearts. So the most important thing for me was that everything that we do here matters. Every action has a reaction, and we need to take those into consideration. And when I speak ugly words, they last forever. And the only way I cannot take them back, so I have to level set them. So if you've lived a negative life and you've sown negativity into your world, it's not too late to change. And you change today, right now. And all of the crap that you did that was wrong, it doesn't matter because today you changed and today you understand that love is more important than anything. So when you make the choice to operate in love and do what I call dare to be second, live in gratitude, all that crap that you did doesn't matter because that's not who you are. But the problem with most humans, we don't let our crap go and we carry it with us and we don't
Yeah.
give ourselves the benefit of the doubt and we don't
Yes.
let it go. And that right there will keep you from happiness.
Right, because you are carrying this immense
Yes,
weight, right, that you
yes,
were not meant to carry. And I
yes,
was thinking about that when you were talking about in your life review when you feel the hard emotions. And I thought, and it's not for punishment, right? Because it goes back to that we have this idea about punishment. It's not about punishment, it's about learning,
yes.
right?
That's the right word. Yeah.
Yes, it
Learning.
is.
That's all it is.
Absolutely. And so when we experience that learning in the realm that is all around us, this very
Yes.
weird earth experiment that we're on, the same is true here. Right? That is why self-awareness and reflection is so important because we can do it here in the moment and go, "You know what? I when I said this, it didn't make me feel good." Right? Didn't make the person feel good. I'm gonna reflect on that, and then I can actually repair that.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can go to that person and say, "Hey, I said this thing. I am sorry. I'm sorry that I hurt you, and I am going to do better next time." And that's the beauty of what we can do here and now,
Yes.
and not just project it forward into what happens next.
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, there's actually 3 things, okay, that every soul must master. The first one is unconditional love. The soul has to understand and exercise unconditional love as their dominant energy. And when I use unconditional love, that also means right and wrong, because right and wrong is an extension of love, right?
Yes, and holding accountable, right?
If I choose not to do something that I know is right, then I'm making a choice opposite of love. That is right and wrong and is an extension of love. So, number one rule is love. The second thing that came up for me in life review was letting go. Okay. And it's the thing that most humans struggle with more than anything. When somebody harms us or does something that we are offended by, it is harder than heck to let it go. It is. And then we play with it and we embellish it. And then we have that conversation in our mind 10,000 times. The thing that I would have said if I would have had the chutzpah to say it, right? And all of that looping and all of that negative energy that you're creating is doing nothing for you. It's digging you a deeper hole in your heart and also in your life review. Okay. The thing upstairs that you get to define what it is. Okay. The thing upstairs wants to know that you know how to love unconditionally. Number two, that you can let it go. Because if you carry negativity when you die, if you carry hardness in your heart from people that you should have forgiven, you did not die neutral. That is not going to be a fun life review for you. Okay. Now, when I say fun, let's clarify something. Life review is an education. It's
Yes.
everything that you did well and everything that you could have done better. But the one thing that matters more than anything is love. And the entire time I was surrounded by the most infinite thing of love you can imagine. And I wasn't judged by God. I judged me while God stood with me. Okay. God didn't have to tell me where I did right or wrong. I knew what I did right or wrong in my heart, and my
Yeah.
heart showed me. So I realized when I came back that I had to change my ways and I needed to let go of this and learn how to run out of here. And when we lead our lives through light and we make choices along that line, then when we get back and we go through life review, it makes it easier for the last question, which is this: can you find me? from within? That is the question. And it's probably of all the things that you experience in life review, that's the most important thing of all is can you find me from within? In other words, in this massive this cosmos, which we are, I mean, to say that we're a speck is an enlargement of what we really are, yet we're also known. Like that blew me away how everything is connected. Like you see it. I have walked in the field of probability. So when we talk about how our bodies feel things from the field before our brains register it, I've walked in that field when I died. I know what the field exists of. It's like a web. We're literally surrounded by a web right now. You can't see it. It's there molecularly. But as we walk, that web is what records our movement and it's connected. And that web is what connects, even atoms and elements. That's how quantum entanglement works. That's why a molecule on this side can start spinning with the other molecule 1,000 miles away in the same laboratory once they knew each other. That's quantum entanglement. That's where, Einstein said spooky magic at a distance. What is this?
Yeah.
This web that science cannot see yet. Okay. I've seen the web, and that's how it works. It's literally, we walk in a web. You look in the space and you see empty. It's not empty. It's full. It's full, but it's like a loose matter. It's like fluid. It's like little filaments, kind of. And as we walk, the filaments touch us. And the touchingness of the filaments is what connects all of us together. So we are literally all connected. We are all cut from one source of light. And we all have a responsibility to share that light, especially when our light is brighter than those of us around us, right? Not the way that we see it being done now, which is you go this way or you're wrong. That's not how you bring people to light. That
Yeah,
takes away people from light. They're not
absolutely.
getting
It's that the right or wrong dichotomy that has gotten us to this place that we are in history right now of if you and I disagree, one of us has to be right and one of us has to be wrong,
it.
and that is the issue,
It is.
right?
Yes.
There is not
Huh?
unless your perspective is harmful to another human being, you can have an opinion, I can have an opinion. We just have different lived realities
That's
that have
correct.
brought us to that, and it doesn't have to be a rift or a
Yes.
fission between us.
Correct. I teach something in my course called the principle of absence. Okay. And the principle of absence is what God showed me how everything actually is. And what I mean by that is the only thing that existed was nothing. Nothing existed. And then God made light. Okay. God made light. So nothing existed and then God made light. Okay. So what was created was light and absence of light. That's what God created. Then man entered the prism as a physical being. Okay. And man said, well, wait a minute. If it's not light, it has to have a label. Let's call it dark. Let's call it dark, and it will be the opposite of light. So God did not create dark. Man created dark. Man created that. What God wants us to do is return to neutral. That's it. Light, return to neutral. Light, return to neutral. What do? Light, return to neutral. Better yet, let's go dark. It's even better. And that's what we did. So what we did was we lost the middle, which is where God lives. Neutral. God is zero, not plus one, not minus one. Right dead center in the zero. Because that's where true happiness lies, which is that ability, that incredible space that no matter what happens, I can balance anything in the moment, right? And for me, I do it with math. We add those things in life that brings forth goodness and joy. We subtract those things that don't serve us, that don't bring forth joy, and we let them go. We embody our action with an intention and we align it with love and we grow and we multiply. We get it bigger And then we multiply that expanded goodness. We take what we need, not what we want. We take what we need, which means the excess that we don't need is abundance. That abundance goes back into the system from where it came. If we all did that, we would live in a world of perfection. There would be no poverty. There would be no wealth. Everybody would be running in perfect neutrality. And that is what God created. Man, we screwed it up. Can we fix it? Yes, we can. We fix it with one word: gratitude. It's gratitude.
So, for someone who is sitting in this really hard place, who is really struggling, what is one practice that you would recommend to them to start to come back to themselves, to come back to
I
that
got a
place of
great
neutrality?
exercise. Go in front of a mirror, look at yourself, and I want you to tell yourself that you love yourself. I know that sounds like a weird thing to do. And for some people, they may even choke up saying that. But I want you to go into a place where you can see yourself exactly as you are and tell yourself that you love yourself and mean it. Okay? Mean it. Because I want you and every listener to know that you're perfect exactly the way that you are. And this thing upstairs that everybody gets to define what that is, that thing upstairs sees you in perfection exactly as you are. Okay. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever let anybody take your power. Don't let anybody think that you are less than them, because that's not true. You are cut from the same light, the same source. We all put our pants on the same way. Don't ever forget that. You matter exactly as you are. That's what I would say. You have to start loving yourself first and accept your scars, because your scars is what made you you. Okay. And I
Yes,
got plenty of scars. Trust me. Yeah.
especially as we get to this midlife space and transition. We have so many scars, and we are taught to cover them up and not to value them, but they are what make us who we are. They are what make us beautiful. They are what make us able to
Exactly. Your
connect.
scars made you beautiful. That's exactly right. Yeah. You know what? I lived a victim my whole life, but now I don't see that at all. What I see is the incredible life that I lived. I don't see the fact that I was abused by over 50 people. I don't think about that at all. What I think about is the incredible life that I live today, right here, right now. And while those 17 bags that I used to carry full of trauma and crap used to beat me up, today I stand on top of them. Notice I didn't leave my trauma behind. I carried it with me, but I stand on top of it. It makes me taller. I'm wiser today because I lived through that crap. So those ugly things that you went through that you say had no value had incredible value when you learn from them.
Love yourself first, love your scars, and bring all of your story with you. Thayne, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
You as
All
well.
of Thayne's contact information will be in the show notes. If you feel resonance here, make sure you check him out and connect with him. So grateful for the time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for hanging out with me on Transforming 45. If you laughed, nodded, or had an oh wow moment, hit follow and share it with your favorite midlife human. Find me on Instagram at @lboat and keep those transformations coming.
Electricast.